You can be loved by everyone and still feel unseen. The truth doesn't land with anger at first. It lands with a quiet ache. You sit at a table surrounded by family or friends, every chair filled, every plate touched, every voice loud. There's laughter spilling across the room, hands moving, glasses clinking, jokes repeating. By every measure, you are included. By every measure, you belong. And yet inside, something feels hollow. You smile, you nod, you even add to the conversation when expected. But beneath it all, a voice whispers, they don't see you. I've lived this paradox in rooms filled with warmth. Family gatherings where relatives squeezed my shoulder, asked polite questions, told me they were proud of me. Work celebrations where colleagues lifted glasses in a toast, nights with friends where the jokes were fast and the music louder still. Outwardly, I was part of it. Inwardly, I was invisible. Stephen knows this ache too well. He once told me, I'm needed in my home. They rely on me, but when the day ends, I lie in bed and feel like a stranger in my own house. Angela mirrors it differently. I'm surrounded by friends, parties, dinners, noise. But when the lights go out and I close the door, the emptiness feels sharper than ever. Both of them remind me of something I've come to believe. Loneliness isn't measured by numbers. It's measured by recognition. Loneliness doesn't always come from absence. More often, it comes from presence without depth. And that is the sharpest kind of loneliness, when the people who say they love you don't really see you. I remember sitting at family gatherings where laughter was loud, but intimacy was absent. The table was long and heavy, covered in dishes that steamed and shimmered in the warm light. Plates clinked, forks scraped, voices overlapped, stories circled the room like tired birds, landing again and again. Everyone looked happy, bonded by tradition. But in the middle of that noise, I often felt utterly silent. I smiled when expected, laughed politely when the rhythm of the table demanded it. I answered questions with short, safe replies. No one noticed the distance in my eyes because the noise filled the silence I wasn't speaking. And I told myself, this is what belonging should feel like. A full table, a full room. But the contradiction was clear even then. Loneliness doesn't come from absence. It comes from absence inside presence. Stephen once confided, I go to every family dinner, I sit in the same seat, I play my role. But half the time I feel like I'm just a placeholder, not a person. Angela admitted to her mirror, I can be the life of the party, laughing, joking, filling the air with noise. And yet when I leave, it's like none of it touched me. Their honesty reveals what I felt at those tables. Company isn't connected. Being around people isn't the same as being seen by them. I used to believe if the room was full enough, if the laughter was loud enough, the ache of loneliness would dissolve. But the opposite happened. The fuller the room, the sharper the ache. Because nothing is louder than being unseen by people who say they know you. Loneliness is loudest where laughter is thickest. Being needed isn't the same as being known. That line has haunted me for years. Neededness can surround you with people. It can fill your schedule, your evenings, even your house. It can keep you busy enough to look alive. But if no one truly knows your soul, then neededness is only another kind of invisibility. You can be indispensable to everyone else and still absent to yourself. You can keep their lives afloat while quietly sinking on your own. I once came across the thought, crowds can fill a room but starve a soul. It unsettled me because I had lived it. I stood in halls where laughter echoed, where glasses clinked, where approval came easily. Weddings, conferences, dinners, celebrations. All of them full, all of them noisy, all of them affirming. And yet, I walked away emptier than I arrived. Because affirmation isn't intimacy. Approval isn't a connection. Neededness isn't recognition. The room was full of bodies, but my soul had gone hungry. Stephen once asked me, "Have you ever been in your own home and felt like a stranger?" His words carried the exhaustion of being dependable, yet invisible, always present, but never truly seen. Angela whispered to me once, "Have you ever made everyone laugh only to collapse into silence when it was over?" Her admission revealed the other edge of loneliness, the mask of connection, stripped the moment the curtain falls. Their questions are not hypothetical, they are alive. And they remind me that loneliness is not about proximity, it's about depth. You can be inches away from someone and still feel miles apart. I've written a line in my journal that I return to again and again. Loneliness isn't the absence of people, it's the absence of being seen by them. Each time I read it, I feel both ache and relief. Ache because I know it's true. Relief because it means loneliness isn't proof I'm broken. It's proof I'm unseen. Loneliness is not a personal failure. It is a signal that recognition is missing. Belonging, then, isn't about numbers. It's about recognition. It's not measured in the size of the crowd, but in the depth of the gaze that meets yours. One person who truly sees you is worth more than 100 who only needs you. One honest word is worth more than 1,000 polite ones. One moment of being known can outlast years of being admired. You don't need more people. You need deeper presence. And sometimes that presence is the difference between starving in a full house and finally feeling at home in yourself. A crowded train station can feel emptier than an abandoned street. I remember one winter evening standing on a platform in the city, thousands of bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder. The air was damp with the scent of wool coats, coffee, perfume and rain carried in from the streets outside. Trains screeched in and out, their brakes crying against the tracks. Announcements echoed above, distorted and sharp. People's shoes scuffed, conversations overlapped, phones buzzed and lit up the air with blue glow. By every measure, the place was overflowing with life. Yet I felt utterly alone. Faces brushed past mine without recognition. Shoulders pressed against me, but no one lingered. I was surrounded by more people at that moment than I might see in weeks elsewhere, and yet the emptiness inside me grew louder with every passing second. I felt like a ghost in a river of bodies, present but unseen. Stephen once told me I walk into my own living room and feel like I could vanish. They'd still eat, they'd still laugh, they'd still carry on. Angela mirrored the same truth in her own way. I can fill a room with noise, with jokes, with energy, but when I go home, I feel untouched, like it didn't matter I was even there. Their words remind me of that train station. Presence without connection can be more isolating than solitude itself. I left the platform that night carrying a strange paradox. Absence is quiet, but absence inside presence is deafening. Loneliness doesn't need emptiness. It can bloom in the middle of the crowd. Being needed isn't the same as being known. Stephen's voice carries this ache. I provide, I fix, I answer. But sometimes I wonder if anyone really sees me beyond what I do for them. Angela's laughter hides the same wound. I make everyone smile, but when I stop performing, I don't know if anyone would notice the silence that follows. Their words remind me of what I've come to understand. Recognition, not numbers, is what turns presence into connection. I've lived the same mistake. For years I thought belonging meant filling the room. That if I was invited, if my chair was filled, if my name was on the list, then I was safe. But belonging without recognition only deepened the ache. Crowds don't heal loneliness, connection does. The detour is this. Belonging isn't about numbers. It's about recognition. One voice that truly hears you is enough to dissolve the ache of 100 who don't. I've written often in my journal, connection counts more than company. Those words ground me when I feel tempted to chase crowds for proof of worth. Because intimacy is never measured by numbers. It's measured by presence. A glance that lingers, a hand that stays, a voice that pauses long enough to listen. So I ask myself often, who truly sees me? And perhaps harder, who do I allow to see me? Loneliness is not only about who surrounds me. It's about whether I let myself be known. You don't need more people. You need deeper presence. The truth hums in me tonight as I sit in the quiet of my home. The rooms around me are filled with reminders of gatherings past, photographs, mementos, echoes of dinners and conversations. I think of family tables where laughter was loud but intimacy absent. I think of train stations so crowded they swallowed me whole in silence. I think of Stephen, surrounded by family but aching unseen. I think of Angela, surrounded by friends but collapsing in emptiness after the party. Their stories and mine carry the same truth. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the absence of being known. Rooms can be crowded, conversations loud, and yet loneliness still lingers like a shadow at the edge of the table. I used to think numbers could cure it, that more people, more invitations, more voices in the room would finally silence the ache. But numbers never heal. They only multiply the noise. Connection counts more than company. Presence matters more than proximity. The ache of loneliness still finds me. There are mornings when I scroll past hundreds of lives displayed on glowing screens and feel invisible. There are afternoons when chatter fills the air, but none of it reaches my heart. There are evenings when I sit in rooms full of laughter and feel like a stranger among my own. The ache is not the absence of people. It is the absence of presence. What steadies me now is remembering that the cure is not found in addition, but in depth. To be known by one person who sees you fully is worth more than being surrounded by many who barely notice. To be listened to with attention is worth more than being applauded with noise. The full house means little if the heart remains empty. I recall gatherings where the table was long, the glasses full, the stories flowing, yet I left more hollow than when I arrived. And then I recall the quiet conversation with a single friend, a moment of honesty that still lives in me years later. One filled the air, the other filled my soul. That is the difference presence makes. The road bends forward, hidden as always, but I no longer need crowds to carry me into it. So I thought to myself, maybe it is better to be known by one than surrounded by many. Maybe true belonging has nothing to do with a full house and everything to do with a full heart.